for the nice introduction. I was waiting for some Pokemon references actually from Adinda, because I'm a Pokemon trainer myself. So
Exactly.
this is my biggest identity other than being a tech lead. And it's a German-based studio, Threaks. I joined this year. And previously I was working in a UI and gameplay programmer in a mobile game company in Prague. Threaks is based in Germany. And I realized that I worked half of my career on the same game, working on the same game. That's why I put this talk together. So maybe a brief introduction, what is LiveOps? So it is managing player expectations in real time with the tools. It could be A/B test. For our project, it was A/B test, or in-app purchases, or some seasonal events. A brief of introduction to my experience, 9 years experience in the game industry. I've previously worked in serious games, mobile games. Currently I'm working more with console and PC games. And as I mentioned, I worked as a gameplay and UI programmer, and recently I switched more to the management side, so I can see it from that perspective. And here in the small area, you can see my other identities, that I'm a mentor and an advisor, and I'm a Pokemon trainer, and I'm an aerialist. It is some sport I do to just get rid of the stress of the day in the evenings. And I would like to mention the programmer's journey in a long-term project by referencing the hero's journey. This is maybe common to you by Joseph Campbell. And if you work with narrative design before, or if you work with some narrators, you may heard of this principle of hero's journey, and it's used for movies and games, for example, for Star Wars, or Lord of the Rings. You could also say the Zelda games use this principle, or Mario use this principle. And I wanted to metaphorically apply this to programmers' experience in a long-term LiveOps project. And these are the steps to our journey. So we start in an ordinary world, which is your maybe first step in the industry or your project in the current company you are working on. And then this cycle goes, and when you return with the elixir, it will end. So we will step by step discover the journey. So first step, ordinary world. So the hero begins in their ordinary world, and the programmer is looking for a project to work on. So this is where you are looking for a project, you are looking for a job. Clicker doesn't work. I'm clicking, but it doesn't go. Thank you for the assistance. It went too much though. We were in the first step. Could you assist me back? I had an image with the slide about the project I was working on, but I guess it is a bit messed up. So I would like to talk about the project. I will refer, so half of my career, for 5 years, I worked on the same project. It was a PvP mobile shooter game, and it was free to play. And as a programmer, I often did not feel fulfilled, because it was just adding new assets to the project, just importing some configurations, just switching off your brain, and you would just click on buttons, get the assets from an artist, and just add it to the project. So this game had over 10 million downloads, so the player set was big, and they were often giving comments about the game, so I often check the Facebook groups or Discord groups and get the feedback from the players from the store. So it was a mobile game, so I could read the reviews from Google Play or the Apple Store and keep myself motivated. And this game actually meant to be only in 3 months of development. and then released, but it ended up being 3 years in development and later on 7 years of live ops. So at the beginning, it wasn't set to be a long-term project. That's why it had some flaws in terms of coding. So you had to keep up with the legacy stuff we were using. Or over 7 years, we had to do several times Unity updates, and it was a Unity project. And it was meant to be even single-player game, and then it evolved to be a multiplayer, so it had its own difficulties and its own challenges, and that's why it was a bigger challenge, and it was my first start of the journey, and okay, now it works a bit. Let's try. I think the images just don't work. But it's okay, let's go back to the second step. It was the second step in our journey is the hero receives a call to the adventure, and this is for the programmer is that being assigned to a project which is involving maintaining and improving an existing system. For me, it was that I was assigned to a project with 5 other developers, so I was a junior developer. I was taught by the seniors how to work in a project. First of all, it was like small bugs, bug fixes, and it was fulfilling. So with each task, it was a different challenge. It was a bigger task, so I could learn new stuff. So maybe first half a year or 1 year of development, I never felt like, oh, what is this? I'm doing always the same thing. I don't feel fulfilled. I still have some motivation to keep going on. But of course that the third step on your journey, you are resisting to the call to the adventure, because maybe it is your imposter syndrome. You're thinking like, oh, there are so many seniors in the project, and I don't know if I should be here. And at the first stage of the project, it was meant to be that people would start leaving the project, and at the end, after 2-3 years, they just left the project to me, and I was leading the project. And of course, I didn't know it from the beginning, but even with this small step into the project, and it was a big project going on for 3-4 years, I felt this imposter syndrome and feeling the hesitation of taking this journey. And then meeting the mentor is another step in the hero's journey. And for my journey, the mentor might be that my seniors or my boss or my lead, tech lead who was teaching me. And the programmer is benefiting from the mentorship and the guidance from the experienced colleagues and managers. And the next step is the hero makes a commitment to the adventure and enters a new world of the project, and we are committed to the long-term journey. And this was my first version of the game I worked on. It had several new improvements, so new weapons, new features, and at the beginning it was fulfilling from this perspective that we were still adding new maps, new features, so it was always a bigger challenge. And as we go on with the slides, you will see that the features got similar to each other over the time. And I worked on 38 versions of the game and some hotfixes over the 5 years. And from these 38, I think 20-25 of them were just adding some new assets and just copy-pasting the same code over and over again. And here you see one of the last versions we made. It's just like adding some cosmetics and some improvements or just bug fixes. And the next step is the hero faces trials, forms alliances, and encounters adversaries. And for the tests we are seeing in this project, I would like to talk about them more in detail. One test I was taking was the Unity version updates, because the game started as the Unity 5.6, and it had so many legacy SDKs it was using over the years. I had to do so many API updates for Firebase, or we were using Angry even, so some updates were not even possible, so we wanted to add some new features, but the legacy SDKs we were using was actually stopping us, that we had to find another way, some workarounds to cover from these issues. And the Unity update part is from 5.6 to 2021 we updated, and that was, I think, 2-3 months of process, just updating the game step by step. And we needed to update the Firebase SDK we were using like 3-4 times, so this was one of the biggest tasks I challenged with this long-term project, to maintain the SDKs or plugins you're using. And then the bugs from the players, or that the bugs you just find while digging your code. And the cheaters were getting more experience as the game was getting bigger and bigger, so I had to deal with the cheaters finding new ways to cheat. And the user complaints is that one of the biggest things, lowering your motivation, because you read the complaint, you never read the good review, but focus on the complaint, and you are thinking like, oh, I'm such a bad person, I'm making this player's life so miserable with the bug I created for this game. So this was a big challenge for me to overcome. And then at the end, I was just sad, like this Pikachu. And the next part is the alliances. Okay, let's go to enemies. I hope it comes to alliances afterwards. So the enemies, so as I said, the bugs that I was seeing on Facebook groups, Warfriends is the name of the game, runs by who, none other than the bugs, and you see it like, oh, I'm such a big failure. Then you continue reading, and you see that there is no motivation for players to continue playing. Then you start reading reviews on Google Play, and people say that they are wasting their time by playing this game. And from now, when I see this and think that, oh, actually they cared, and if they are giving bad reviews, it meant that they actually cared about the game. That's something good. But back then, it was just making me doubt myself and my abilities. And one other player has lost my years of progress after switching. We had to switch from publisher to publisher. This was one of the biggest tests as well, that we wanted to self-publish the game. That's why we had to move the player accounts to one system to another, and if players didn't open the game for 2-3 months during this transition, they lost their account. And legally, we couldn't do anything, and we tried to promote this on social media and say that, yes, you will lose the account, please click this button. If you don't click this button, we can't do anything. So this was the biggest enemy and challenge that we took throughout this journey. And we missed okay. I wanted to talk about the allies as well. In the middle, there was the allies slide, but it doesn't work for some reason. So I will still go from my slides, and it's that the players were posting some photos, gathering together, and saying that we are playing this game. It's so good. So seeing these kind of positive reviews were one of the allies. Then I had one weapon in the game named after me, actually, and as maybe project manager or the decision maker in the project to motivate your programmers or artists to continue working and keep their motivation alive, I would suggest that just name something after them so they can see it in the game and they see that players are actually playing something about them, so they see the relation. So that was a good point from me, that to see that they named it. I mean, probably they just didn't have time to find another name for a weapon other than something like Crusher or some animal name, so they just named it after me, but it was my ally to keep myself motivated. One of the allies, the biggest allies, was the game jams I was attending during the weekends or the evenings. I was doing some passion projects, and this is how I kept my motivation alive, and I somehow continued improving myself with different challenges, because just clicking some buttons and importing for new cosmetics wasn't really improving myself, and I felt like I'm always staying at the same spot, and by just joining some game jams, it helped me to improve myself. And if we go through the journey, the hero is approaching the most significant challenge. And this was the transition that I was talking about. Since the photos did not work, the order is a bit. Now that we will summarize, and the next thing is that the ordeal of the burnout, that you are working on the project, you want to keep yourself passionate, so you start working on a game jam during the weekend, so you're overworking yourself, although that is not your job, but you want to keep yourself passionate about, so you may end up feeling burnout, or that you see all the small bugs in the big project and you want to fix everything. And I often thought about them even in the evening, and that's kind of led to some kind of burnout. So that was the biggest ordeal. And what is the reward in this journey after coming these challenges was that you're gaining the rewards and experience, of course, and you can take them to the next project you were working on. And of course, there was this questioning to myself, so why do I continue working for 5 years for this game, which wasn't fulfilling me? And you have to make the decision. I was always so scared to make the decision and say that, yeah, now it's time for me to take a different challenge. It was the colleagues that I couldn't leave. It was the feeling that maybe this is the only thing I'm capable of, just clicking some buttons and doing the same thing every day. Maybe I'm not ready for the next big challenge, so you're always contemplating your next steps. And the hero is experiencing a final challenge and often a life and death situation. For me, it was being laid off. Actually, this gave me the push. So the company was not doing great. The only game we were developing was this 5-year-old game, and it didn't pay much for the company, so they had to downsize the company 4 times over 2 years. And at some point, it was my turn to be laid off, and that step actually pushed me to make a big leap and question, so what am I doing? And that's how I ended up with my current position. So I'm currently working as a manager for a German company, and if I wouldn't be laid off, probably I would still stay in the same long-term project, just clicking on buttons and not taking the next step. So I am returning with the elixir and completing my journey. I still have the experience from all the things I learned for this long-term project. It's not that it was so sad journey for 5 years. I didn't accomplish anything, but I learned from different challenges, like keeping and maintaining a long-term project, a legacy project. So now I know how to do unit updates, I know how to do updates for SDK, so that definitely added me something. But I was able to return with the elixir to my next step. And thank you for your attention. I would like to give my contact here, and actually I recently started reading a book about motivation. I didn't add to the slides because I wasn't sure if it will be good. I'm halfway through, and it's really actually touching the topics I was thinking about, how to stay motivated in a long-term project. It's called Drive by Daniel Pink. If you're into reading, or if you're into reading things about which they can help during your workday. I think that's a really nice tip to read. And I'm also open for Pokemon Go trades. If you are a Pokemon trainer as well, I'm still missing some of the regional Pokemon. So here is my friend code. You can find me around or outside to trade some Pokemons. And also, I'm open to your questions. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah, I hope you find your Pokemons that you're still missing. Does anyone has any questions? Did I hear or not? Okay, so I was wondering, like, which Pokemons do you miss, to be honest?
I'm missing Pachirisu. It is the squirrel, white and blue squirrel.
Okay. So, and your favorite game is Pokemon, or is it secretly something else?
Anything Pokemon is my favorite game. I would play anything Pokemon, yes, but Pokemon Go is the game I play every day, so I guess that's the best game ever for me.
Okay, now a little bit more serious, not into too much depth into Pokemon, because you're saying like now you're reading a book about motivation, but have you read also other books about motivation that you say, this book is really good because I compare it to the other books?
To be honest, I was so skeptical about the self-improvement books or reading about motivation, because when the book says, oh, just be motivated, think positive, I never follow it. I often go with the opposite way. Oh, you tell me to think positive? No, I will think the worst. So, but yeah, this book is telling it in a way that I'm like, yeah, this makes sense, actually. So it is like going back and reading. I also have another book about motivation or keep finding your own group and how to bond together, and it's called Wolfpack. I always keep it on my bedside so I can open it and remember. With these kind of books, to me, it's not like opening it, reading it once, and just always remembering it, because I forget about it. Often next month, I don't even remember what was the book about. But if I keep it in my notes and then scan it through every once in a while, it reminds me that, yeah, I should think about this, I should be positive, or I should be motivated, and this is how I can be motivated.
So in which part of the book started you, because you say, most self-improvement books, I'm like, that's too, it's all the same stuff, but which part of the book were like, oh wait, this is something that clicks with me? When was that
the examples actually is really clicking, and with the Wolfpack, which clicked with me is this sentence. It says failures means you are not out of the game, because it's a book from a football player, and when you make a failure in a football game, you're out of the game and you're replaced by someone, right? Or you get the yellow card. And the part she was saying is failure does not mean that you are you're out of the game, but you are in the game. So that's, I always try to remind myself, okay, I made a failure, but it means, yeah, I'm trying, I'm doing something, so I'm still in the game.
That's really cool, really nice. I think we all should read this book as a good advice.
And it's a really small book, and it has like nice chapters, so you can scan through. And Drive is a bit more condensed, but it's still good.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much for